All right, Oval fans, here's my review from this week's episode, Season 4, Episode 19, It's No Secret. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. This wasn't an awful episode. You could definitely tell it was setting up for bigger things, but there really isn't too much to write home about this week. In some of my episode reviews, I noticed some people were like, yo, you gave this episode a 7. I would have gave it like a 5 or something. It wasn't that spectacular. I mean, most of the dialogue was the same old, same old. And I'm not changing my score this week to reflect the comments of other people. It's just that, 4 out of 10 is higher than what I scored Sisters, assuming I even bothered to score that show. It's just that, there really isn't too much for me to talk about. Everything is pretty cookie cutter, copy and paste, or, the same dialogue from each episode. Definitely a setup. I mean, we are closing in on the finale. We have 3 episodes total left, 20, 21, 22, and then we're done for season 4. And I think for me, one of the worst bits of the episode was the passage of time from when Sharon, sat down to, or was forcibly sat down by Kareem to let him say what happened. Yet in the show, Sharon literally says, we've been sitting here for hours and you haven't said anything. I did not care for that, but let's just jump into the episode. This review shouldn't even be 10 minutes, give or take, but let's go. So Simone calls Victoria, and if you saw, to be honest, a lot of these scenes, if you saw the promo for the episode, it pretty much spells out, what's going down. She confronts Victoria over the earring. Turns out the earring was a birthday gift from her and Eli to her one Christmas. Oh, I'm sorry, not birthday gift, Christmas gift. And that's how she recognized it. Of course, we know Victoria planted it in his coat pocket on purpose. And Simone just makes it clear that she won't get away with this. I'm coming for that ass. How about we have lunch? At the White House, Victoria declines, and then she just hangs up on Simone. There really isn't too much to take away here. I'm sorry, there really isn't. But later in the episode, Victoria calls Eli about the call she received and says that she doesn't want to do it, but she'll do lunch tomorrow. Eli's like, you just do it to taunt and torment her. And I love doing it too, so I'm going to do it. Like, no, don't schedule the lunch. And then she acts like she doesn't know how the earring got placed in his coat pocket. But from there, he does say he has to go to a meeting, and Victoria's like, yeah, because that ass doesn't do anything. How do you know I have a meeting? Because I see your schedule, which does actually make sense. Not just because of the whole affair thing, but, you can assume that almost all meetings that Hunter is supposed to go to, Eli goes to, but whatever. And he'll call her later tonight. We got the cabin back, the place that Jason said he didn't want to go. I mean, this boy, I don't even know if it's going to work because he's a nut, but he's like, can't we go to like a nice hotel or something like that, someplace less dreary and, than this cabin? What does Jason not understand in terms of, to the world, you are dead? Meaning that if you're seen anywhere, someone's going to recognize your ass. So this whole thing about escaping and wanting to get away but not go back to the White House, being off the radar is the only way to keep you safe. And on top of that, David's back and he said, like, look, I owe you an ass whooping. Look, we need him alive. Yeah, I know, Sam. Boy, that's your lucky, kid. So basically from there, Sam goes back to the White House and just, again tells Jason, this is the best place for you, which, like I've been saying, there really was no point in him escaping to begin with. Because here we are right back where we started from. I know it would have been repetitive. It would have been tedious. I'm pretty sure I would have mentioned it in each review up until this point. But even if they just did brief cutaways to the cabin every now and then, as opposed to him escaping, it would have been better than the useless storyline of him escaping to begin with. Because yet again, here we are right where we started from. Alright, so Alonzo goes into Alan's office to thank him for the drugs. And in the midst of their conversation, like, hey man, you want to get a beer after this? Yeah, after, work, just come over, we'll get a beer or two or something like that. And Hunter comes in talking shit. Basically, the drugs suck. He sees Alan. He goes on about Ellie, about how he used to beat her, and she was so pretty and whatnot. Alan's a wimp and this, that, and the third. Chastises, Alonzo for being friends with him, and he goes back to the Opal. And that's pretty much it. And from there, Alonzo leaves after Alan's like, hey, don't worry. I know a guy. I'll get the drugs for you. Oh, okay, Alan. I'll see you later then. So he calls his contact Antonio, who tells him to call him back. So he does give Alan a call later on, and he said that he needs the next batch of drugs to be laced with some substance that begins with an F. I cannot bother to spell it. But basically, this guy says, hey, if you do too much of this, it could kill you. Look, I know. I just need this batch to be strong. And he says, I'll pick it up sometime after work. And from there, we go over to Richard at the hospital. He calls Priscilla. Hey, look, I need to see if somebody can come and watch Nancy for a little while. I got to go back to the White House. And Priscilla's like, look, I get off work in about an hour. I can sit with her till 7, but I do have a date later on tonight, so, and Richard's like, we'll talk about that later. So we go in with the doctor, who tells Richard Nancy has a lot of hypnotic incentives in her body, and recommends like, hey, is there anyone we can refer you to get help? And Richard snaps on him. I think he did the same thing to the female doctor who was asking if Richard wanted help for Barry after he got drugged in season 2, and he was in the hospital in season 3, because of the Rakadouchi. And in both situations, Richard, flew off on the doctor from making recommendations, and because in both situations, Richard's family members were drugged, they weren't substance abusers. So once the doctor leaves, he's like, look, well, you can actually take your wife home. And Richard gets ready to take her back, and they're getting ready to leave, but Nancy makes it clear. He's like, look, how people who have amputated limbs say, even though I lost my arm, it still feels like my arm is there? Or, I lost my leg, but I feel like my leg is still there. I feel like I lost both arms. Barry's dead. They'll find him soon. To be honest, hypnotic Nancy is still more interesting than the real one, but, it's been a good 3 episodes now, if not 4, of the same old about her saying that her son is dead. I don't know. It's just a bit repetitive at this point, but that could be said for much of the episode itself. All right. So we go over to Donald and Kyle. Kyle goes into Donald's office. Basically, he gets chewed out for losing David. He calls Sam in there. And Alan actually comes in for a brief second, but Donald tells him to go. I'm guessing Alan was probably reporting to him before he left for the night, but I don't know. So Sam comes in, and Donald wants to know, well, Sam, why were you tracking those plates? Well, I got a call from an FBI agent. Oh, and then Kyle's like, who with the FBI? And then, Sam drops the name. It's like, look, you can call this person to confirm it. But basically, we got intel that there was a threat on the president, and I was looking into it. And then basically before Sam leaves, because remember, Sam is lying about this whole thing, Donald's like, Sam, we're going to look into it. And if I find out you're lying to me, it's your ass. Yes, sir. And then from there, he barks at Kyle to go find Jason at any cost. And he'll go upstairs to talk to Victoria about it. And as he does this, he just basically briefs her on everything he learned in the episode and asks whether or not her father might have something to do with the Jason thing. And she says no. He's about to leave. She's mad at him for leaving in the midst of her husband doing drugs, getting high, but Donald ain't got time for that shit, so he goes home. We have a brief conversation outside of Eli's office between Max and Bobby. It's just the same old banter between the two. Priscilla stops by to ask if they're on for the night still. He says yeah. Of course, she only does this just because Sam is randomly coming up the hallway. He and Max well, he and Bobby almost get into it, but Max breaks up the fight before it can even start, and they both go their separate ways for now. And we go over to, I believe, wow, okay, I only got 2 more scenes to talk about. Yeah, if I didn't do my little intro at the beginning of the episode going over how bland this one was, this video would have been 10 minutes like I originally said. So Sharon confirms that the phone that she found in Kareem's apartment under the couch that's cracked and bloody, that it's Barry's phone because she calls it. And then as she tries to, hide the phone or something, Kareem comes out of the back to apologize and, explain to Sharon why he's been acting weird. And, it's kind of a long, drawn-out scene for no reason. This episode was also 40 minutes instead of 42. It could have been like 27 and you wouldn't have missed anything. So, they had this back and forth of, what are you hiding, Sharon? What's behind your back? Is that, whose phone is that? Oh, it's my phone. It's a new one. And then, he eventually grabs it, asks why the phone is bloody. And he can, I guess confirms it was Barry's. I just don't know. And then she's trying to leave. He forces her to sit down, like literally grabs her to sit down. And then, as I said at the beginning of the episode, we don't even check in on them for quite some time. Because at the very end, Sharon's like, look, we've been sitting here for hours. Dale's running the place by himself. He's going to be worried about me. I need to go. And then Sharon, wait. Look, I'll tell you. It's about Barry. He's dead. I found him here dead in my bed. I didn't do it. Somebody did it. Because at first, at the beginning of the episode, Kareem didn't know about the phone, first of all. So when he saw Sharon with it, he assumed, wait, did you do this to set me up? But, Sharon starts to freak out and leaves. But from there, you have Kareem who, like, forces her on the ground like she's trying to escape. It's just one of those things where I think she was wearing, like, boots. So there were moments where Kareem was, like, grabbing her by, like, the ankle. And I think that if she had easily slippable shoes that can, like, come off when Kareem grabbed her, she might have been able to get out of there. But it's just like, I noticed a couple times, like, she was flailing around and, he grabbed her by, like, the shoulder or arm. And then other times where she was so close to the door, he, like, grabbed her, like, by the leg or ankle. And I was just saying, yeah, she was wearing, just shoes she can kick off as opposed to, like, boots that had to be unzipped and whatnot. She may have escaped, I don't know. But we just know that by the end of the episode, he has her restrained, by like the waist and whatnot on the floor. And she's just, screaming to get out there. So over at the pharmacy, Dale gets the call from, what's his name? Norman, who's Kareem's cousin, about the drugs that were, dropped off. And he's like, yeah, the prescription ready. Dale has no idea what's going on here. So he just assumes this is a regular call. And then he goes to check the back wall with all the prescriptions, notices a lot of them under the same name, and then opens the bag, or maybe not the same name, but basically he goes and notices, all these bags in the same tray have coke in them or other drugs, and he freaks out. But then another customer comes up. Oh, hi, ma'am. Let me help you with that. So by the end of the episode, Alonzo stops by for Jacob's Stallworth or Stallwash or something like that. Dale gets one of the bags. So I'm assuming each bag has a different name on it. But if they're in that tray, it's drugs. So he scans it and it's over $6,000. And Alonzo's like, oh, damn, I don't have that much. Well, hey, we could take a card or something like that, card or anything. Are you selling illegal drugs? And then he tells Dale to put his hands on the counter and he goes around to like handcuff him. My guess is Alonzo is going to put on a show like he did when those cops busted in on him and Hunter and that prostitute / informant. So basically he's going to put on a show. I don't think he's going to arrest Dale, but I think he's going to confiscate those drugs and give them to Hunter, basically to save his ass. That's what I'm thinking. So poor Dale, this guy cannot catch a break at all. He really can't. He's into this pharmacy foolishness without knowing that Kareem's doing this shady shit on the side. But like I said, it was a alright episode, but it's easily skippable. It really is. Just If you watched the promo, then you didn't need to watch the episode. All right, well, like and subscribe. Follow me on social media, and I will catch you in the next one.